they're not going anywhere, but the Commissioner will be. Yeah. Senator Wish-Wilson.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Mr Jordan, in your opening statement on page 1, you say in 2016 progress continues unabated. We're seeing some positive changes in the behaviour of multinationals and large corporates already. Could you elaborate a little bit more on that, what those positive changes are?
Yeah, in a general sense, whilst Deputy Commissioner Mark Konza, who heads our international area, is coming up, obviously we have started dialogue. Some have approached us that this MAL, so this is this multinational anti-avoidance, this is the sell here, bill overseas type model of operation, and they're sort of part of that 26 that we've written to saying you need to get your house in order.
Yes, Senator, I think that's the main thing that we're referring to is that when in the lead up to the MAL, we were approached by approximately 8 of some of the biggest trademarks in the world. In a number of cases, they flew their global tax managers to Australia because they were informed that the MAL was taking operation from 1 January 2016 and they wanted to find out what our attitude was going to be to its administration. They were probably a bit disappointed because we said, well, it starts on 1 January 2016, so you've got to comply straight away from day one. I think they would have liked a holiday. But they did take that on board and have since been meeting with our officers to work out how they can begin to adjust their organisational arrangements so that they will be in the future billing in Australia and accounting for their income in Australia. But while they're making those arrangements and putting them in place, they will also be estimating the amount of tax that they should have paid had they had those arrangements in place from 1 January 2016. And so at the end of that process, they'll be paying the right amount of tax going back to 1 January, and they'll have worked with us so that we will sign off that their ongoing arrangements are compliant with the law. Okay. So it seemed to me that they'd realised that the MAL was a pretty serious piece of legislation.
The gig's up.
So
the gig's up.
Yeah.
So just to be, in relation to the tax laws amendment, the Combating Multinational Tax Avoidance Bill that was passed in the Senate late last year, what role did that play in this?
Well, I think
rush to compliance or cap in hand.
Well, that bill was a piece of machinery, if you like, in that it firstly changed the rules so that those who are operating an operate here and bill overseas business model were going to be brought to account from 1 January 2016. It also heightened the pressure on companies by doubling the penalties that might be applicable to them if they were caught out afterwards.
Do you think that stick approach there, rather than the carrots, been part of the reason it's enough of a disincentive? Or?
Well, you know, we're great amateur psychologists, Senator. So we offer the carrot and the stick always, because we find you get the fastest response. So what we said was, we published a paper that said, you come and work with us and you can really minimise your exposure to penalties by entry into what's called voluntary disclosures. Okay. But if you do not, the new legislation will apply and you will potentially be exposed to double penalties. But even worse is that these penalties are a stain on a company's reputation. They really do not like these sort of scheme penalties being applied. The third part of that bill was the transfer pricing documentation component, and while that is a bit of a delayed effect because it takes a year or more to come into operation, companies do see that administrations around the world are going to have greater visibility of their business model. So in that way, the three elements work together.
Okay. So what role did the ATO play in the drafting of that legislation and the consultation to get that to the Parliament and the Senate last year?
Well, the main role that we play, Senator, is to test the administrability of ideas. Yeah. And so we work very closely with Treasury, who understand the policy intent that they're trying to achieve, and we simply provide ideas about whether we can make that work or not.
So would you say it would have been a missed opportunity if that legislation hadn't passed the Senate in December last year?
That would be a speculation, I think. So.
Of
Speculation.
course, of course.
Yes, well, I'm interested. The first of January. Would you agree the 1st of January cut-off wouldn't have applied in relation to these multinationals?
This is as bad as a government backbench question.
Yeah. Oh, well, I think he might have been involved, maybe. But that's okay, that's okay. Are you?
Yeah, no, I've still got a few more, Chair.
All
if
right,
that's
well,
okay.
let's go.
Yeah.
Sorry, I thought you were
are you trying
finishing
to put
on
me
that
off, Laura?
flourish, you know.
Okay, so but the 1st of January cut-off was obviously important to get the ball rolling, so to speak, and to lock that into law and legislation.
Yeah.